Amar Kalsi of Ramar Capital, and I've known Amar for maybe, I don't know, 4 years.
Mm.
We've been partners together on a deal. I think for about 10 properties that we own together, and we've been friends, and we've shared tips back and forth. And over the last 4 years, I think they've grown their business a lot, and I've also scaled up a bit. And he's here to teach everyone, how to grow your business as an investor, and also how to quit your full-time job and become a full-time real estate investor, which I know everyone is really interested in hearing about. But he has a very interesting story to share, and he's done over, I don't know, 150 real estate deals, which is uh, more than most people. Let's just say that much. And with that, I'm going to pass it to my partner Shanika, and eventually Amar's going to lead us off.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shanika Boucher. I am here with Angad and Amar, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to learn more about how to invest in real estate and how to, like you said, how to quit your day job. I love to quit my day job. So,
No, you can't. We need you in city council.
okay. but Amar, we would love for you to kick off tonight. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to share my experience, with you all, and in fact with all the audience out there. So Angad and me, Angad just said that we know each other pretty well. We have been on a deal, and we have been kind of growing at the same pace especially in Camden. So Camden is our one of the hotbeds that we're heavily investing right now. So before I get started, I want to share my journey into real estate, like how it came together, when we started, what we did, and things like that, so that people who are trying to think about getting into real estate, they get some insight how to do it. So back in 2015 was a time when I was still in my full-time job. I was like working in an IT firm, had been working there for last 25 years, had a very good job, like, six-figure salary, stable job. But something was kind of missing, in the overall scheme. It was not, I like to be challenged. I like things which are challenging, which are, which, where you can feel sense of accomplishment, if you will. So, but that sense of, challenging or accomplishment was missing in the job. So, I said, what, I've been in a job for 25 years. I need to do something different. I need to explore different opportunities. So I started looking, should I, since I had a background, I'm like, should I open up my software company? Should I do consulting? Should I have my consulting firm? And right around that time, one of my friend introduced me to real estate, and he said, why don't you look into real estate? Real estate is something that gives you, financial freedom. You can manage your own time. You have flexibility. You have, if you do it right, you can have tangible assets that, not only you but your generations can enjoy, and you can have passive income of those assets for forever. So we started looking into that, and then one of very good friend, and he's actually partner, my partner. His name is Rama, and that's why we have Ramar Capital. So Rama and Amar forms Ramar Capital. So we are two names joined together in that, partnership. And obviously we have a partnership with Angad also in one of the deals. So so I decided to quit 9 to 5 job, and then, it was like, I want to have this financial freedom. I want to be my own boss. I want to have sense of accomplishment. I want to be able to do something that I can, have tangible assets of my own. So if you go to the next slide, Angad, you'll see the reasons that I chose. I quit my six salary job to a job when we started was zero salary, was a risky risky choice, but took that plunge late in my career. And I'm happy that I did that because it has been a very good journey thus far. It's given me flexibility. I want to retire by when I'm 60, 65. I'm being my own boss, and there's nothing like it. So the point I'm trying to make is that for all the folks who are out there who are listening, it's never too late to get into real estate. If you're thinking about it, if you thinking how to do it, there's a lot of brain power here between me, Angat, Shanika. We guys can guide you how to get started, how to get into investment. If you're trying to buy or sell, whatever you're trying to do, and if you need help, we are here to help you guys out. So that's one of the reasons this whole webinar series has been started by Angat, is to help the community out there, newbies, experienced investors who want to share their knowledge. That that's the whole idea, that we want to be able to help you guys out there. Angat, you want to add anything?
Yeah, there's so much information out there. There's so much you can absorb. I think the most important thing is taking action and taking like baby steps. And the best thing to do is really first. We did the webinar series in order, right, from first step to next. The first step is obviously looking at your credit, creating a business plan, speaking to realtors. So if you can follow the steps and just start taking action, if it's every day, every week, give yourself some sort of milestones. And I mean, it took me 2-3 years to get my first house, and then took a couple of years to get, it took a couple of months to get the next. And then eventually, now, there's months where I'll buy 10 or 15 houses in a month. So it scales up. I mean, it starts small and gets bigger. That's really, but all
One
it takes
thing
is taking that first
yeah,
step.
so that's a very good point you make, Angat. And I do want to mention that, as Angat said, that it takes time. It is a game of patience. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent, and you have to keep doing what you're doing. I mean, that's the key for your success. The success will come, but you just do not give up. So that's what real estate is all about. I mean, from outside, it may look that, hey, this is a quick hit that we can do, but inside, it's involved. It's we'll talk about it when we look at the other slides. So going along, so in 2015, me and my partner, started, a company called Air Homes. That company, we ran for a couple of years. We're still running that company, and that was primarily doing wholesaling. A lot of people may be familiar with that concept. So we gradually shifted from wholesaling to flipping to buy and holds. So right now our focus is primarily on buy and hold. Buy and hold means your rental assets. You are buying property, fixing it up, and putting a tenant in there, and then there's a monthly cash flow that asset generates. So Ramar Capital is, our we just formed this brand ambassador for all the entities that we, have. We operate under Air Homes that does flips, wholesaling. We have A&R Investments that does rental properties. So, and Ramar Capital is a brand ambassador that encompasses all the entities that we hold. So we actually have done, as Angad said, about 150 deals, which is about 300 round trips. We are holding about 65 rental properties, and we are primarily focused in South Jersey area, Camden County, Burlington County, and we basically are investors, financiers, flippers per se. We finance properties also. If people are looking for seller financing, we do that. For a couple of people, we have done that. So there's always, we try to, as you're trying to do, trying to increase home ownership in Camden. One of the things that we want to do is we want to help people who are trying to buy their first house and who have bad credit by giving them seller financing options. So that's something that we can talk offline if somebody wants to discuss those options with us. Or Angad, you're welcome to discuss those with us.
So I'll go into a
So
little story about how we met real quick. So this was 3-4 years ago. Uh, Amar and his partner Rama in Israel, I believe, was there at the time. Their third partner,
yeah.
who I don't know, is so much longer involved. But anyways, 3-4 years ago, they were the first people to really start, I would say, the new wave of Camden pricing. So back 3-4 years ago, it was very difficult to sell properties in Camden. There were so many foreclosures. There were so many abandoned houses. It was really I never sold a property because it was just so hard to sell these things. There was no one buying. But they would take this very innovative approach of taking beautiful pictures, putting it on Facebook, putting it on Craigslist, putting it on the MLS. They would market it 6, 7, 8 different ways, and they'd have people coming from all around the country buying properties in Camden. And I mean, some people, get worried. They're like, "Are you gentrifying an area, bringing outside investors in?" But I'm of the opinion that what they did actually was really good for everyone, because when you're bringing people who have money from outside into Camden, you're basically bringing money from other parts of the country into the city, and it's creating jobs. It's creating jobs for the contractors. It's creating jobs for the local businesses that supply. We use local hardware stores, and the people they sold properties to did the same. So there was a lot of jobs that were created because of the activities that they did 3-4 years ago, and I think they really did kick off they brought a lot of people in, a lot of money into the city, and I know they don't really get credit for that. Most people don't like to talk about it, but I think it was a really good thing.
Yeah. So that is really good. That the marketing engine that we created back then was a catalyst for our growth, and that segues into the next thing that I wanted to talk. So as we run a real estate company, one of the things that is very important is how do you run a successful real estate operation. It's easy to start, and but then you want to be able to keep doing what you're doing and keep doing what you're effectively, more efficiently, be more productive. And from the very get-go, when we were starting our air homes back in 2016, we were a small team. I mean, we still are a small team. We are a small player in a big pond, or a small fish in a big pond. And we said that, what, we want to do a lot of things here. How do we operate in this environment? I mean, we want to do wholesaling, we want to do flipping, we want to do we want to do buy and holds. So and we are only, back then we were only three people. How do we make it happen? How do we do this? So we adopted this smart methodology of working. And smart is an acronym. We used to use this methodology where I used to work a lot. And that's what we said. What, we're going to have a very, very, very targeted approach in what we do. So smart basically stands for, S is for specific, M stands for measurable, A for achievable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. So we applied this methodology in our business, meaning, like, when we started, we are like, what, we are going to be so specific. We are going to target Camden. We're going to be so specific that we're going to target foreclosed properties. We're going to be so specific. We're going to target properties which are under. Back then, we could buy a property for 5K, 10K. I mean, that's not happening now. But we were like, we're going to be targeting assets which are was distressed, and Nangat has seen the kind of properties we used to buy. Nobody would even want to touch those properties. So, but that's where our target was. That's where our strategy was to be so specific in our approach, Look for foreclosure properties. Look only in Camden. You're not going anywhere. We're just going to be under 20K, and we're just going to do wholesaling. So that was, and that's what, if you are trying to get into real estate, put a business model together that, and don't try to do everything in one shot. Be very specific in what you want to do. Uh, Identify first come up with your strategy. The strategy is going to lead you to your objectives, and objectives is going to lead you to your goals. So that's if you follow that methodology, success is just matter of time. So we formed a strategy with Camden, and then we said, okay, this is a strategy. How we going to we need some measurements. We need to be able to measure what we are doing. If we are going to be buying foreclosed properties, how many do we want to buy? First year, 2016, we said, okay, you know what? Even if we do 20 deals or 10 deals, 15 deals, that's success for us. So that measurement, what it does uh, is very important for every objective that you have, or every goal that you have, because it is going to tell you if you are able to meet the goal or not. And if you're not able to meet that goal, what you need to do is you need to look back at your goal and say that, is my goal correct? Am I doing something wrong? Do I need to adjust my measurement? So that creates a feedback loop, and that creates helps you to do better in your measurements or make changes in your operations so that you can achieve your target. So we put different yardsticks, different measurements, and we were constantly tracking it. And you could track it on a monthly basis. You could track it on a quarterly basis. We were tracking it every week. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why it's not working? Why this is happening? And I remember we used to have meetings at 7 a.m. in the morning, of us, in like a diner outside Route 130, and we used to sit there for 1 hour, 2 hours, just debating. Okay, what do we need to do? Why this is not working? Why that is not working? Do we need to change this? Do we need to change our marketing plan? So that kind of measurement, that kind of engagement you will need, when you're putting your real estate business plan together. So the other thing, you want to do is you want your plan or your goals or your strategy to be achievable. If you're putting a plan and if it's not achievable, that's no good. So for example, we said, what, given the funds that we had, we can only achieve buy 10 properties. And we were happy with that because, defining a realistic target is more important. That gives you sense of accomplishment that you have achieved something towards your goal, and then you want to do it more. But if you define unrealistic targets, you're going to be disheartened, and it will be a matter of time that you're going to be out of this game. So very, very important, define achievable target. The next thing that is very important also is have goals which are relevant. If I'm doing year one, we said we're going to do wholesaling. I just need to focus on goals which which are relevant for wholesaling. What kind of marketing I'm going to have, what kind of team do I need? I won't need a contractor. I would just need clean out crews. What kind of networking do I need to create? So create your goals which are relevant, and create your plan which is relevant, that tries to accomplish those goals. Last but not the least is time bound. This is we always I always tell my my staff, my contractors, that time is the most expensive commodity that you have. You cannot buy time. You can buy anything in the world. You cannot buy time. You just have to work in those 8-hour windows, and that's it. So whatever you do, make sure everything is time bound. Your goals, your objectives, your projects. If it's not happening, you need to know why this not happening in that time slot. Either your expectation is not right, or somebody is not performing right. It's your job to figure out what's happening, and adjust. So time should be front and central. In any organization, it is the most important thing. We need to use it wisely. That's my advice for everybody, young generation also that's out there. If you are able to manage your time effectively, success is just matter of, it'll just happen. You just start seeing results come through. Angad, any thoughts you have?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's good to have a framework, right? Especially in the early days of anything that you're doing for the first time. It's very hard to be accountable because you don't have a boss in real estate. You're your own boss by definition, unless you work at a real estate company. But it's important to commit to something like SMART as an acronym, because at least it'll give you like the feeling of a workplace and accountability. Shanika, what do you think about that?
I mean, no, I love it actually. As I started to invest a little bit more and have a team, that was something that we talked about in terms of like how do we figure out what our investment strategy would be? Because I see a lot of people get started, and then you're like, so what are you thinking about when you're purchasing these houses, and what is your long-term goals? And they may not have any. Or people that purchase a property and they don't even know like the financials of how much they expect to make or return or how long it'll take. So I mean, I think that having a measurement is key to, I would say, long-term investing, definitely, to being
And
successful.
I think one thing you could share with everyone that you might have a better experience on is Shanika, that is you're always doing like what 5, 6 different projects, right? Generally, you have a lot of irons in the fire. Um, Amar and myself now are full time in real estate. We really only have one thing to do. So I think a lot of our audience is going to have a few irons in the fire. They're going to have family, they're going to have work, they're going to have real estate as a side thing. They might have something else as a side thing. So how do you stay organized? Do you use something like Smart, or do you what do you use?
Well, high energy, I would say that. I try to find energy. But honestly, what I do is my system is similar, where I have, I always look back weekly at what is my goals for the next coming week. Particularly in each subject, since I have a lot of things that I have to juggle. So then it is like how much can I get accomplished within a time frame, and then a lot of it is like what needs to happen first and what can happen later. So a lot of times I am really prioritizing things to make sure that I get to the most important things first. So when you have to juggle multiple things, you really have to prioritize, but you definitely have to have a system. And so I'm really heavy on systems and organization. Because if you don't organize well, your week will just be, I mean, you can't accomplish any goals. And a lot of people never reflect. And so the one thing that I like about this, it gives you opportunity to reflect. And you said the thing that I really love, Amar. You said time. I tell people this all the time. It's like time is the only thing that you can never get back. And I think is a thing that most people take for granted. And so I'm happy that you said that. And like I said, I love this system. I think that it's a great system. And if you are really right now on this webinar and you are thinking about what you can do, I think that this is the first thing that you should take. Take this page and absolutely spend some time on it as you're building up your strategy, because it will be helpful.
And everyone, I hope you know this, but all of our webinars, our past webinars, they're not only on YouTube, but the presentations are actually on our website. They're hosted through Google Drive, so you guys can access these at any time. So if you want to print these slides out, you can do that. But I'll go on to the next slide.
So the next slide, we're talking about scaling up real estate business, and that's where me and Angad, we find ourselves right now. We are at a critical mass. critical mass. Every organization would have a critical mass. It could be 10 properties. It could be, once you get into your rental portfolio, every organization will figure out what their critical mass is. It could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. So when you are at that critical mass, you want to start thinking. And in fact, you need to start thinking before you hit the critical mass, because critical mass may be a little late by the time you start thinking about scaling your, you need to, in between, you need to think about, okay, I'm going to scale up to the next level of investing, that where I can, get from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 100 in matter of few years, you know and it's doable, because Angat is a living example right there in front of you, who has grown into that kind of critical mass, and we are following him. We are behind the curveball, but yeah. So, but you need to start thinking, how do you scale up, and putting this strategy also upfront will be really, really very helpful for someone who wants to make this a long term strategy. So the first thing that I would advise anybody who is trying to scale up: delegate. You need to start delegating roles and responsibilities. You will find that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And you want to spend the 20% of your personal time wisely. Now, when you're scaling up, that means if you are your own boss and you are trying to juggle 10 things same time, it's not happening. That means that 20% of effort that's going to bring 80% of results, you are wasting that time, in doing mundane tasks. So start putting up a plan, start delegating. There are tasks like, if you are into buy and hold or rental portfolio management, your rental portfolio, start looking at who's going to do your, accounting, who's going to do your leasing function, who's going to do your marketing of, rental properties, who's going to do your maintenance. Are you going to hire a property manager? Are you going to do in-house maintenance? Based on those questions, you're going to start, delegating those roles and responsibilities to different people. uh, that will help you free up your time, and you can focus on 20% of your of your time on the activities that are going to produce 80% of the result for your organization. So very, very important to start delegating. Second thing that you want to start doing is start looking at technology. And Shanika, you mentioned that you are a big big proponent of technology, using technology wherever you can. Start using technology, automation, to increase productivity. So what you want to be able to, the idea here is, you want to maximize productivity with minimal input. Sorry, my dog is barking. Yeah. So what you want to do is, you want to look at, for real estate, you want to look at what kind of CRM I'm going to be using. And I'm going to use Salesforce. I'm going to use any other CRM for my lead generation. What kind of property management software I'm going to be using. I'm going to use AppFolio. I'm going to use Buildium. What is it I'm going to use? So give me 1 second, guys. Let me just take a.
Sure.
Hold on.
There was a question in the chat, on God, that I think we might be able to answer.
Sure, it's actually from Lorenz. So, why did you decide to invest in South Jersey? I've answered this before, so you don't want to hear my answer. Let's wait for Amar to come on, and we'll talk about his answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. You had a
So
question?
we had a question from the audience, and they were asking, why did you decide to invest in South Jersey instead of Philly area or any other area in the country? Why South Jersey?
So very, very good question, actually. Real estate, there's a saying, real estate is local. I live in South Jersey. So I wanted to invest close to where I live. That was number one. Number two was we were looking at opportunity where we could maximize our ROI, return on investment. You know, and number three, we like challenges. As Angad said, that nobody was investing in Camden back, like the way we started investing or buying distressed asset. Nobody was doing that, so we saw an opportunity. So what happened is back in 2015, we had a third partner, Israel, and he introduced us to Camden. We were doing work outside Camden, but then he said, why don't we go on a tour? I show you what's happening in Camden. And he took us on a tour, and we really liked what was happening, and we could see what is going to happen in Camden. So, we could see the return on investment that was there. And long-term strategy, we wanted to build a rental portfolio in Camden. We could still buy, back then we could buy properties for 15,000, put in like 30,000, all in at like 50, less than 50,000, and you have a good rental property that pays you $1,100, $1,200. You cannot beat that. Taxes are low. You have reasonably good rental income, and your investment is low. So we decided, and plus it's close to where we live, so it was a no-brainer for us, and to start investing in Camden. So that was one reason that we identified Camden to be the place where we want to invest. Plus, we could see what's happening in Philly. We could see that there's going to be a spillover happening from Philly to Camden, and that will bring the prices up. So back then, we were, when we used to sell wholesale deals, often we would have Philly buyers buying in Camden because prices were so high. The shells were selling for like 100,000 in Philly, and shells in Camden were selling for like 5,000, 10,000. So it was a no-brainer for a Philly investor to come to Camden and start investing. And we do have one of our, dear friend who is from Philly. He's also heavily invested into Camden. So that was the reason we started investing.
Okay, very good. If
Any other
anyone
questions?
has any questions, just put it in the chat feature, put it in the raise your hand, and we'll get to them. In the meantime, I'll let Amar get back to the slide.
So I was at, implement technology, because technology is an enabler that's going to increase productivity with minimal, human input. So as a real estate investor, you want to look at technology. If you're doing wholesaling, you want to look at CRM solutions. If you're looking at, flips, you want to look at project management solutions. If you're looking at real estate rental investments, you want to look at property management, software solutions. So that will enable you to be more productive. The third bullet, standardization of process. This is very near and dear to my heart, actually. That you have to have your organization to be able to scale up. You have to have a replicable, repeatable, people dependent process. What it means is that you want, anything you do, if you're doing property management, it shouldn't be that you are only relying on one guy to do all the things. Or if you're buying an asset, you should have a process how to buy an asset. For example, the first step is, okay, how do we generate leads? How do we once we have the leads, how do we get the property under contract? What are the different steps? Once the property is under contract, how do we take the property from contract to settlement? So all of these steps are like different processes that you should document, and create like a binder for these processes that you can easily distribute to anybody in your organization, and they can execute those processes. And they need to be repeatable, replicable, and something that you can even outsource back to different countries, and they should be able to do the job. And Angad, I think you are also a big proponent of something like that, right?
Yeah, we use everything in Google Sheets, not Google Sheets, but Google Drive, and there's like literally anything you do more than once, we create a guide on how to do it, and then a video corresponds to that. So, if, uh, if you ever need someone else to help you, you can just give them the guide, and they're able to do it. Um,
Right.
so it's
And
been
it
great.
saves a lot of time for you, right? I mean, it saves a lot of time for you. You don't have to keep repeating same thing over and over again. Somebody needs to know something, you just tell them, go there. It's all there. Just ask me if you have any questions. So that's one thing. It takes time, it takes time, it takes energy, but once you do it, it's a big time saver. There's a lot of investment upfront, but eventually you are going to start seeing, you start saving time and you start doing different activities. The next bullet talks about sandboxing. And sandboxing is a concept, as you grow in your organization, you want to start delineating the roles in your organization, so that each employee in your organization knows what they're doing. There's no crossover in role and responsibility. Then people, if you have multiple people doing multiple things, nobody is accountable for anything. You don't know who's doing what. You cannot say, okay, who's supposed to do this job or who's supposed to do that job. So start, as you grow big, start delineating roles, make your people accountable on what they are doing. So that's also, I find it to be really, really helpful, because then I can only go to one guy and I can ask him why this does not happen. This was supposed to happen, why it did not happen. And there is no excuse that the other person can give. So sandboxing, standardization, implementing technology, delegation. The next thing is working on your business. Very, very important concept. Work on your business rather than work in your business. What it means is that as you scale up, you want to take a back seat. You want to pull yourself out of the mundane tasks that you are doing. You don't want to work in your business. You don't want to be a worker. You want to be a thinker. You want to be a guy who is creating strategies. You want to be somebody who is thinking how to grow the business, what needs to happen to take the business to next level, right? So work on your business, don't work in your business, and that will take time, but you need to start thinking, because what happens is, when you're small, you are working in your business. You're wearing multiple hats, doing multiple things, but slowly you need to pull yourself away, and you need to start thinking, okay, I have all these teams, I have delegated all the roles and responsibilities, I have standardized my processes, I have implemented technology. Now, now it's time for me to work on my business and focus. How do I take it to the next level? And last but not the least, measurements. Everything that you do in your organization needs to have a yardstick, needs to be measurable. If you're doing leasing, you need to know how many calls you get every day. What's your conversion ratio? How many calls does it take for you to put a tenant in an apartment? How many days it's taking for you to put a tenant in an apartment? What's your vacancy rates? Why? How how long your properties are vacant, how much are you spending on turnover. So there are all kind of measurements that should be front and central. You should know everything uh, right there and then, that if somebody, how your organization is working. So very, very important for scaling up. You need to have like a dashboard kind of thing. I call it a dashboard, which I can see, okay, here's my business, I have these many vacancies. My rent collection is this much. My, delinquencies are this much. My rehabs are costing me this much. So all that information are measurements basically that you need to be able to measure somehow. Anga, thoughts, Shanika?
No, I completely agree. That's what I was saying a little bit earlier in terms of measurements are really important. Like I said, I've come across people who say that they're buying property, but they're putting out a lot of money and they don't know when they're going to be able to recoup that money. If they're trying to invest for the long term, that might be problematic, especially for cash flow. And so I think that, creating a system of measurement, I even had a sheet that I got when I went to this real estate course that helps me figure out how much money I should be making. Like, how do I make a bid? That was a measurement that I think is important. And I have a sheet and I have a calculation and I have a friend that's like a business partner. We argue over that number, but for me, it's important. It's like, this was created for a reason, and I think that it's a good a system to have in place in terms of measurement of how much money we're going to put out on a project, because you usually still spend more than a lot of times you anticipate. So I like to use those calculations on the front end and on the back end. And I know a lot of people sometimes get really scared of putting those numbers together. I'm not sure. I think this might be a good place to pause and just see if anybody has any questions about what we're saying, because I know that we might have some people who are kind of new to this or learning. Any questions from the audience before we go on to the next slide? Nothing popped up yet. So Amar, we can keep going.
Okay. So this slide is also, I like it because it's just graphics that shows uh, scaling, your real estate business, and it just a quick and dirty thing that show that you have a small house, bigger house, you have a brick, and as you're going along, you see that when you start small, you are doing a lot of things yourself. Start profit, start investing, start scaling up little by little. You're still doing your own work. You're CEO, but you're still at certain point in the journey of scaling up. You want to start thinking of all the bullets we talked about. Start outsourcing, start delegating, start implementing technology, because that's when you're going to be able to scale to owning like an office buildings. So very, very important. Yeah.
I like
So
this slide, Amar. This is a great slide. And I think it's extremely helpful to look at that, because I think a lot of people are not sure at where to start in this. Like, I think that this would have confused people. And probably until recent, I would have been confused by this, because I'm like, well, do I want to start big and like delegate down and, figure that out? But I like this model. I think that this is really a good way to start and think about scaling up.
I think we
Yeah.
may have got a question in the chat. Okay. What are the next steps for Amar Capital? New markets, higher property acquisitions? What are you guys seeing in the future?
For Amar Capital. So
We
the
talk
next
about
step
this
that
quite a bit.
yeah,
So
yes.
I probably know the answer, but I'll let you tell everyone else.
So the next step is that we are looking into, obviously, I mean, pre-COVID, we wanted to get into commercial, investments, buy like a, like an office building, or buy like a distressed office asset and convert it into like small office spaces. But the whole model, and then the COVID happened, and then this thinking, what, this whole office model, I don't know if it's anymore, nobody's going to offices, everybody's working from home. So that actually took a little bit of backseat for now, because we don't know what the future holds. If if it's going to be more like Zoom calls, everybody working remotely, nobody going to offices, so that commercial real estate, we're still waiting and watching what's going to be happening. So but that was our next thing that we wanted to get into. But in the meantime, we want to continue grow our portfolio of rental properties, which means that we want to be able to single family houses in Camden and surrounding areas, single family, multifamily, dwellings in Camden and surrounding areas. We just expanding a little bit into surrounding areas, which still within Camden County, but looking at opportunities everywhere right now. In Camden, the market has really become hot right now. I mean, the kind of deals we are used to, we are not finding those kind of deals anymore. So it's Angat probably finds good deals than us now, but we are not finding any good deals right now. But we want to keep doing what we are doing. We are doing construction. We have about 8, 9 projects, which the rental projects which are going on. We want to keep continuing doing that for a little bit until we figure out what's happening in the commercial space, and then look what we can do in the commercial space. But long-term strategy is to have a portfolio of rental properties. In between, we do continue doing flips outside of Camden. Not in, a little bit of flips we have done in Camden, but majority of flips we do outside of Camden. And little bit of wholesaling, not much, primarily focused on building a rental portfolio at this point in time.
Cool.
Any other question?
Let's see if anything comes up. Okay. So we're good there, and if anything comes up, we'll take a pause.
Okay, so part of doing business as you're scaling up is, or scaling up, or even if you are a new investor, there's always you're trying to figure out how do I you know how do I do my first deal. A lot of people run into an issue where they may not have sufficient funds to do a deal. And I tell a lot of folks, don't even worry about funds. If you have a real deal with you, if you find a real deal, money will follow you. You just have to find a really good deal, and money will line up. So if there are people out there who are thinking, I don't have enough cash, I don't know how to get into real estate, I would strongly advise them that they need to change their thinking. They need to focus on finding a deal. And if you're able to find a really good deal, money will find you. So very important concept. Uh, it's hard to grasp for newcomers, but I'm telling you, find a deal and bring the deal to us. The money will follow you. Bring the deal to Angad or bring the deal to us. You'll see the money show up. Yeah. So how do you do more deals as you're investing, as we are investing, as Angad is investing? There's always a challenge. We always run into challenge of finding more deals. That's one challenge. The other challenge is we always challenge with, it's a good challenge to have, that how do we get enough funding, to get into bigger deals? What is our source of funding to get into bigger deals? And you just have to look around, you just have to look around your network. If you are trying to get into a deal, first deal, and you don't have sufficient funds, take the deal to your friends, take the deal to your family, take deal to your co-workers, take deal to your business associates. See if they're interested to invest with you, partner with you. you have to be a good salesperson to do that. Of course, you need to be able to sell your deal to them. But there's always people out there who will be willing to partner with you, with willing to help you out in your first deal. And once you do the first deal, you get confidence. You know how to do it. It'll just be a matter of time that you're going to start partnering with more people, with different organizations to do more deals. And Angad probably can, best person to talk about how to partner. What do you think, Angad?
Yeah, definitely. I think your first deal, yeah, don't worry about what's in your checking account. Worry about the deal. And what does a good deal look like? A good deal looks like, in the business we call it a back of the envelope. The back of the envelope, you'll say, what are you buying it for? What does it cost to renovate? What can you rent it for? What can you sell it for? Does it look good on the back of an envelope? Does it hit a good rate of return? If you don't know how to do that, that's fine. I think that at the simplest level, look for a story. Like a story meaning, is this a property that's on your block and someone they're getting, someone unfortunately just passed away and it's in the state and they have to sell it quick, and you're the first person to know because you live on the block. If you have a story like that, that means you're probably getting a pretty good deal. Someone will work with you that knows what they're doing. And how do you find someone that knows what they're doing? Obviously, you're more than welcome to call one of us, but if not, there's an even easier way. You go on Zillow, go on Hot Pads, and look at people that have rental listings. If they have a bunch of rental listings, that means they probably own a bunch of properties, or they represent someone that owns a bunch of properties. And they can find you someone that owns a bunch of properties, and that person will be that'll be your good. He or she will be your partner if the deal's good enough. I'm sure they will. Maybe they won't, and if they won't, find another person. Someone, if you have a good deal, a good story, do it. So I guess the first step is finding that story. And how do you find that story? Just like Amar was saying, look around, find people, go to networking events, speak to friends and family. Just put it out in the world. Put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, put it on Instagram that you want to buy real estate and you are interested in. And eventually, I hope something happens. Someone will come your way.
So
Mm-hmm.
for a newbie
So,
investor, how do you know what a good deal is? Because I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people here who probably don't have any property. I know it says like the money will follow you, but sometimes that feels so abstract. And then like, how do you know what's a good deal? Is there, like you said, some sort of metric that you should use to figure out whether it's a good deal? How do you know? And then how does the money find you? So if you're an investor and I'm a person and I have no money and I have bad credit and I really never owned even a house, but I have a passion and I think real estate is someplace where I can start. How do I even approach somebody like you two and say, hey, I think I have a good deal. I don't really know. So how does that look? How does that work?
so
Sure.
that's a very good question. That's a very good question that you ask. How do you know, you know, if the deal is good or not? I mean, there are if you guys are familiar with Bigger Pockets, they have like calculators. There are a lot of online calculators that you can use, punch in numbers. If it's and the deal is, could be a flip, could be a wholesale deal, could be a rental deal. You need to know what kind of deal you are presenting or what kind of deal you're looking. If you're looking for a wholesale deal, I call a wholesale deal a good deal. If so, we call, in our organization we call it like an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a wholesaler, a flipper, and a homeowner, right? And in that ecosystem, if everybody is making money, right, I call it a good deal. Meaning that, if I find a wholesale deal, let's say you find a boarded house in Camden, and you say, hey, you know what, I found a deal. I can get you this house for 5K, 10K, right? And then you bring it to, you want to wholesale that deal, right? So you want to wholesale, and a flipper would look at the deal and say that, you know what, yeah, I can buy it for 15. He'll look at the house, he'll say, yeah, I can put in 20K, 30K, and I can probably flip it for 80K. So I have about 30K of, equity in of profit I can make on the property. On the back end, a homeowner is always looking for a deal so that when they buy a house, they have an equity in the house, right? They don't want to buy a house that doesn't have an equity. So what we try to do is we say that the best ecosystem is that, if I'm buying a house, if I'm able to wholesale a deal where I make money, and if flipper is able to flip it, make money, and if a homeowner is able to buy a house, where I'm able to put money or give him some equity in the house, that's a perfect scenario. That's like a win-win for all. You want to create that scenario. Now, this is not going to happen day one. Like a lot of newcomers or a lot of newbies who are trying to get into, they're not going to know if the deal is really good. So in that case, try to have a mentor. Try to associate yourself with some networking group. Try to associate yourself with, like organization like Housing for All Camden, or you are welcome to call us, and we can help you out to identify if the deal is really good or not. And there are going to be times that you may think the deal is good, but we may say, you know what, this is not a good deal. So I would just advise, do not feel rejected if that happens, because that's going to happen a lot. You're going to find a deal, you think it's a good deal, but you take it to an investor, he's going to say it's not a good deal for me. So then you move on. You should ask questions that, okay, why it's not a good deal? Is the price not right? Does the house needs too much work? Is the area not right? What is wrong? That is not a good deal. So you learn something from it and you get better finding a better deal. So I would say, find a mentor, join organizations, networking organizations, look for online tools, calculators. There are a lot of online tool calculators where you can punch in numbers. They will tell you if the deal is good or not. So try doing that. Yeah.
And another question, really quickly, can you guys elaborate a little bit? I've heard this term OPM, which stands for other people's money. So there's a lot of investors that I know that really shy away from it. They're like, hey, I want to be able to have my own money. I want to spend my own money. And then there's a lot of investors that I know that love that. So can you guys talk about in your investing strategies, if you've used that principle or if you shied away from it, or if you've done a little bit of both?
Angat, you want to take it,
Sure.
or you want me to take it?
Sure. So OPM, other people's money, it's almost like I think there's a book on it, or maybe it's a movie. I don't know, but it's a very common term, for good reason. So it's actually kind of a crazy concept to think you can be a full-time investor with your own money. Um, I mean, you can do it. It just takes. It's very hard to do. You have to have a lot of money to do that. So you have to use leverage. A leverage can be healthy or it can be destructive. Healthy leverage is loans from banks at low interest rates over long periods of time. Um, and everyone in the real estate business uses them. I wouldn't say not everyone, but at least 95% of people use bank loans on properties. Then there's hard money. Hard money is short-term, quick debt in order to buy a deal and stabilize a deal, and that's usually 1 year. And interest rates could be as low as 9% or as high as 15%, and that's pretty. You should be very cautious with this because it could you could lose the deal or you could lose money because your interest rate is so high. Or the other thing is partnership, which is equity, which is where you literally are working with someone and you guys could own the house 50-50, or you could do what's called sweat equity, where you bring no money, the other person puts up all the money, but you do all the work, or you found the deal. There's many different ways to structure it. And I would think in the beginning, use the simplest possible ways. Start with the easy stuff. Start with bank loans. Start with partnerships with friends and family. And then as you get more advanced, you can use more complex structures. And so I guess what is my stance on OPM? A big proponent of it, because if I just bought everything in cash, I'd be stuck at a few houses and wouldn't be here with you guys today. So definitely a big fan of OPM. Amar, do you want to take it?
Right. So that's exactly right. So I mean, we also use banks' money to buy properties all the time. That happens because you only have limited cash You want to do a lot of real estate transactions. But everybody's situation is different. Some people may not have the right credit or right backing to be able to get a bank loan or a commercial loan to run these transactions. So uh, the best bet for you would be I would, if you're trying to get into real estate, form a strategy where you are, if you're low on cash, try to do wholesaling first. That's how we started. We started with wholesaling first. And wholesaling, what it means is, I mean, you could put a property under contract, and you can, you just give a down payment of, let's say, $1,000 to hold the contract, right? And then you find a buyer and do assignment of contract to that buyer. That way, you can make a quick money. Obviously, it's not going to be a lot of money you make on a deal. The margins have shrunk what it used to be back a few years back, but still, it's some money that you can put down to buying a, a property that you want to, let's say, have a rental property. If you don't want to do that, the next thing that you could do, if you are low in your credit score, is that find a deal and look for seller financing. We have helped people out where we have, so what we have done is in the past is that we have loaned people to buy a house, but we would hold the deed until they pay off. So basically, you will get the house. You can fix it up. We will loan you the money. There will be no points like hard money, crazy money, because hard money, what they hit you with is big fees on the back end. They're like all these big fees that they're going to kill you. We don't do that. I mean, we are very, easygoing seller financing terms where we would help you out. You can buy a house, we'll fence it, we'll hold the deed, and once you pay off, we'll deed the property back in your name. Now, if you don't pay off, if you default, obviously, we're going to foreclose on you. So, but seldomly that happens. I mean, we have done 10, 12 deals like that, and all the deals have been successful. Everybody has paid off. And those people were like, they didn't have credits, but they wanted to have home ownership. And this is how we help them, get into their houses. So that's something that, you can do also when you're, trying to use other people money.
So we did have a question come in, and it's from Aisha Boyd, and she's wondering about tax sale properties.
Okay, very interesting topic, and Angat knows more than me on tax sales. So, you want to take that?
Sure. So tax sales, it's a very, like Amar said, it's a very interesting topic. There's a lot to it. It's complicated, but once you get it, it's not crazy. As far as what you can do with it, if I were you, I wouldn't go to the city auction and bid on them. Reason being, it's very, 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 very competitive. There's funds out of Manhattan, out of California that are bidding. They're putting millions in dollars, tens of millions, billions of dollars into tax liens every year, and they generally kind of bid up on everything. So you could try, but it might not be worth your time because all the good deals will be snapped up at high prices. Now, what you could do is buy it on the secondary market, which is where you you buy it from someone, an investor that's selling it after they foreclosed, and that's a good way to get property. But then even then, it's you have to be very cautious because um, if it's a tax lien foreclosure, the previous owner does have a right to sue and get back the house. So there's significant risk with that. Now, the way I do it is because I buy these things quite often, I just take the risk to myself, saying that if I lose on one, it's fine because I'll make on the other five, right? So it's easy if you're buying them in bulk to just factor in the risk. But if you're not, if it's your first house, I don't know if I would buy a tax lien deal at your first house because there's a significant amount of risk and complexity. But once you learn the business, they're a great tool in your toolkit of finding deals. They're one of 7 or 8 good ways you can find good prices on property.
Yeah, and the good thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Angad, that majority of the liens, if you buy a house or property on a tax lien, majority of the liens, even municipality liens are wiped out. Is that a
Yeah,
correct statement?
it's the
Is it?
best foreclosure, meaning
Yeah.
if you buy it on a foreclosure, it'll wipe out every lien. There's no judgment, there's no uh, mortgage, there's no back mortgage. It's the cleanest type of deed. However, there's a few caveats. One is IRS liens; those don't get wiped out.
Yes.
And two, and which is really, I have a property right now with an IRS lien, so it happens. Two is, and this is I'm going through a lot, is the previous owner has the right to contest the foreclosure, and they'll have to hire an attorney and you have to hire an attorney, and they will revisit the foreclosure, and you could be out of luck if you had spent 20, 30,000 renovating the house. The court, depending on how they rule, you could lose that money that you invested into the property, because the court won't refund you for the money you put in the property, especially if you didn't document the receipts. So that is one of the risks. Now that does burn off after 1 year, but like I said, it's better if you already have a real estate business, because there's a lot of moving parts. So if this is just one small piece of your pie, you're totally fine. But if it's your a first time investor and this is the only thing you're doing, you I wouldn't take that risk, because your one deal could go bad and you could lose your savings and you'd be out of the business. But if you have, a good amount of property already and this is just one more property you're buying, then just take the risk, because you can afford to lose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, not something I would recommend for newbie investors. Tax lien investing is for seasoned investors. And also, just I want to touch base on that IRS lien. That IRS lien, I thought the it has a redemption period of 180 days, right? After that, it's wiped out. If you
No,
hold,
it depends. Each an IRS lien could be good as long as I believe 10 years. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is the IRS lien on one of my properties. I got lucky and that it's expiring right as our foreclosure happened. So I only
okay,
have to hold it 5, 6 months. But there are other cases where the IRS lien could be much longer. And the only way that you can mitigate that is if you take that property and put it to a courthouse steps foreclosure. But obviously those aren't happening right now. So there's really no way to do that.
right,
Um,
right, right.
so
Yeah,
it's a little convoluted, and you definitely, if you're doing anything like this, I would recommend strongly that you consult an attorney. This is one type of real estate where you definitely want to speak to an attorney, because there's a lot of nuance to it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So IRS, these tax liens, even live auctions, you got to know what you're doing. I mean, they this it looks like from the outside they're very simple to do, but there's a lot that can go wrong. And we have personally experienced situations where,
The water.
we no, I mean, it's crazy water bill. I mean, unimaginable water bill that we ended up paying. So, so yeah, you got to be very, very careful if you're just doing one deal, just getting started. I would strongly advise against it for newbies. Yeah. Uh, any other question?
And one more point onto that, and this is, when we started Housing for All, it was a community organization. So for your first deal, I know it might sound glamorous to buy at the courthouse steps like Amar does, or buy tax liens like I do, but I think the best thing to do is engage your local community, and see, is there someone who's moving that wants to sell their house quickly? Is there someone that has a house they inherited from family? Is there a house on your block that you see is boarded up? Like, find the deals within your community, because there's something beautiful about that. One, you're helping a community, and two, you don't have competition. There won't be other investors going for that. So for your first, and there's a lot less complexity to something like that, because you kind of know what's going on. There's no foreclosure, there's no legal stuff. I mean, there might be, but it's less than the stuff that more advanced investors do. So I would definitely recommend engaging your local community as your first step.
Yeah, very, very good point. I mean, finding a deal, you're going to find the best deals off MLS, not on MLS or on these Zillow or on these, other platforms. You have to find deals off MLS. Those are going to be the best deals. And as Angad said, look around, look for boarded houses, look in your community who's moving out. Is somebody trying to get out, and is somebody retiring? Is somebody, moving to a different state? Things like that. Try to keep your ears and eye open, and just keep looking in your community, and you will definitely find your first deal. You just have to be persistent, consistent, and exercise patience. The deals will follow.
Thank you for that, Amar. That was great. That was wonderful. You gave us a lot of gems to think about tonight. Before we think about closing, anybody have any last questions?
And if you guys aren't able to get the questions in, don't worry about it. Amar's email is right here for everyone to send him a note, and I think he's very generous with his time, especially for newer investors, and we really do appreciate that. So if you want to reach out to him, please do. Otherwise, Shanika and myself are glad to direct you to him or answer the questions if we can. And next week, we're looking forward to having you back. I think we're going to be discussing. I think we're going to be discussing the local CDCs. And either way, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And I really do want to thank Amar for coming on with us tonight. And thanks to Shanika, and thanks to all of you guys for being here.
Thank you, Amar. It was
Thank
great
you.
to meet you, and it was great tonight. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a good
Wonderful
night.
work you're doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Everyone enjoy their weekend. Take care.
Bye.